baseball fans. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome into On Deck. I'm Tyler Redmond. As always, thank you so much for joining in tonight. Exciting day for Braves country, and we're going to talk about all the exciting news yet to come with the MLB trade deadline. A lot of action, a lot of moving pieces today across Major League Baseball, and the Braves are not exempt. Earlier today, they went out and they got A-Ray Adrianza. We're all very familiar with A-Ray. He was on the championship team last year, but they were not done. Probably the biggest news for the Braves today is that they extended Austin Riley. This did not come to a surprise for us, but this is a big deal. They extended Austin Riley with a 10-year contract worth $212 million. And guys, if I'm not mistaken, this is the largest sum they have paid any one player on any one given contract. This beats Freddie Freeman's deal and Matt Olson's deal to become the largest contract that the Braves have ever issued. And it goes to Austin Riley. Again, this did not come to a surprise. Austin has been phenomenal. He just capped off a great month of July. I think we're all very aware just how good Austin is and can be in the future. But this was big news. This was good news. A lot of us were ultra focused on what the Braves could go get. And I'm glad that we first looked within and locked up one of our key players in Austin Riley. And Austin, like I have said so many times before, Austin is such a just consistent hitter. I think he's been the Braves' most consistent hitter across the past 2 years. And ever since his rookie season, the sky's been the limit. So this is a great deal for Austin. This is a great deal for the Braves, and I think it's going to bring a lot of success to the Braves in the future. Now, that being said, they are not done. I think that Alex Anthopoulos has still got plenty of work to do. I think the trade deadline is still active for the Braves. I think they're still heavily involved. So what I'm going to do tonight, before we get into your questions, which we are going to answer your questions, make no mistake about it, but before we get to that, I do want to propose to you another potential trade idea. Now, I showed you a few this past week in a video I did. Got a lot of attention from you guys. I appreciate it. Got to see a lot of your comments. And a guy that you guys kept bringing up was this man right here. Oh, I apologize. Was Ian Happ. And this is the trade that I want to propose to you guys. Ian Happ and David Robertson from the Cubs for a potential trade package. Now, that trade package can be, you pick the package, right? I think you got to have at least one headliner there, maybe a Braden Shoemake, maybe a Kyle Muller. Regardless of who you choose, I think this could really benefit the Braves. And this is just my last minute, just throw out their idea for the Braves to go do. Ian Happ and David Robertson. And I think this could be really helpful to the Braves. I think that the Braves would be a much more complete team with both of those guys. We talked about David Robertson in the last video I did in the trade deadline video. He had a sub-2 ERA in the first half. And, he was phenomenal in the first half. Had a little rough start in the second half, but I still think he could really aid the bullpen from the right side. So that's something that I think could be doable. And Ian Happ is a guy, we're aware who Ian Happ is. This is his stats as of right now. 100 hits on the year, 9 homers with a 279 average. The reason he catches my attention is because not only is he a switch hitter, he can play second base. It's not his primary position, but with the absence of Ozzy Albies, this could be really beneficial. Because right now, let's just say we did this tonight. You could start tomorrow with your infield and, frankly, with your starting lineup basically looking like this. Those would be your outfielders with Eddie Rosario staying in left and Happ at second base until Ozzy Albies inevitably returns in September and Eddie moves to the bench, Ian moves to left field, and Ozzy is back at second base. So that would be just a potential trade that I think could happen. I'm not saying it's going to happen. Now, you're looking at that prospect package going, okay, Tyler, what do you mean prospect package? Well, today we saw A-Ray Adrianza get picked up, and we traded Trey Harris, who a few years ago we were all pretty stoked about one day seeing in the major leagues. I don't know how far back you have to go to do that, but I was excited about Trey Harris. He was hitting over 300. I thought he could be a consistent hitter, and now he is headed to Washington. So the Braves are not fearful of trading prospects anymore. That is not something that they are shying away from. We saw Drew Waters get traded earlier this year. We saw Christian Pache and Shea Langoliers get traded for Matt Olson earlier this year. So it would not surprise me if the Braves decided to make a move there. Now, what would help the Braves make a move like that is if they could shop Braden Shoemake. That only happens if Dansby Swanson is locked up like Austin Riley just got locked up. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it would not surprise me if the Braves are making moves to lock Dansby up. Not to mention, they're going to want to keep Dansby next year and beyond based on what we've seen out of him this year. Now, this is a contract year. You never know what you're going to get once you sign a new deal. I don't think it'll be a 10-year deal. I think it'll be a little bit shorter, maybe a 5 to 6 year deal. But at the end of the day, I think the Braves are going to want Dansby Swanson, and I think they should want Dansby Swanson. He's putting up a great year. He was an all-star. He's been a leader. Now, that being said, you have to keep the leverage over Dansby by having Shoemake in your organization. Now, if you can lock up Dansby, that frees you to then make a move with Shoemake. Not to mention you got Vaughn Grissom in the minors. There's a lot that you can do at the shortstop position, especially if you lock up Dansby Swanson. But if you don't lock up Dansby Swanson, you have to have a replacement player, that player likely being Braden Shoemake. So we'll see what happens. We'll continue to monitor that. It would be nice to see Dansby locked up by tomorrow to give Double-A the freedom to make a move like that. I'm not saying Braden Shoemake is a goner. I'm not saying he's trade piece, but he could be. It could free him, free Alex Anthopoulos up to do that. Another trade piece that I want to throw at you, and this is not one I'm excited about. I'm actually a really big fan of this guy, but Kyle Muller. Kyle Muller is a guy that I had crossed off every list as a trade piece. I really thought there's no way we're going to trade Kyle Muller. Then he broke his hand. He cannot help the Braves as of right now, at least this year. He could next year, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, but this is a starter of the future, no doubt about it. He could be MLB ready on a lot of different teams in Major League Baseball, lesser known, teams. I think Kyle Muller could start tomorrow. Now, that being said, with a broken hand, it delays his arrival. The Braves may move him just so his stock doesn't go down and they can get an instant impact, because the Braves are in a win now mode, no doubt about it. They are here to win right now. They're defending World Series champions. They're wanting to do it again. They're going to compete for the next few years. They are competing now and they know it. These other teams, the Cubs, the Marlins, the Diamondbacks, they are aware that their window is not in the next near future. It's just not. But the Braves is. They are. And their window is now. And I think they believe that. I think Alex Anthopoulos believes that. And I think a trade deadline, another successful trade deadline like the one we saw last year, could really help the Braves. And again, I think you need an outfielder. And a lot of people, I think when we say, hey, the Braves need to go get an outfielder, they're like, no, they don't. We have Eddie Rosario, Michael Harris, Ronald Acuna Jr., Guillermo Heredia. We have guys, sure. And I'll be honest with you, I thought the same thing until Duvall went down, because I remember last year thinking, well, we could get an outfielder, we could go get a bat, but I don't think it needs to be top priority. If you remember, we all thought that the bullpen needed to be top priority at the trade deadline, because all year long it hadn't been very good, to be honest with you. And what did Alex Anthopoulos do? He surprised us all. Alex Anthopoulos decided to go out and get Jorge Soler, Eddie Rosario, Jock Peterson, plus some in the outfield. He loaded up on outfielders, and that was surprising, but look at what it led to. So I think outfield is a top priority for Alex Anthopoulos. I don't think he's done, but I also think a bullpen arm or two would be awesome, especially from the right-handed side. Now, that being said, you're going to get a bullpen arm when Kirby Yates comes up. He's already thrown some bullpens. I think he's on his way back. Soroka's looming, possibly. We don't really know what the situation is there. They're going to know something we don't. They know what they need. That being said, do not be surprised if we get to tomorrow and it's a hectic day. We see moves all of a sudden go left and right, because last year we were here together. We were right here talking about the trade deadline. It was at the end of the day, 4 o'clock. And one after another, Richard Rodriguez, Adam Duvall, Jorge Soler, it was one after another. So don't be surprised if they act late. Don't be surprised if, they decide that they need what you don't expect them to go for. They may decide we do need more offense. We do, need something. Now, in terms of the starting lineup, I don't think you're going to see a major move there. But if you did, you got to remember, out of that starting lineup, you're going to have to trade somebody. That's, somebody big. Now, I don't think any of the young guys are going anywhere. I don't think Matt Olson or Austin Riley are going anywhere because they're on long-term deals. Ronald Acuna is safe. Ozzy Albies is safe. But I take a look at Marcel Ozuna and I question. We've been questioning all year long, could the Braves make a move? For obvious reasons. We all know what happened last year. But beyond that, his bat hasn't been quite up to par with what it was in 2020, what we paid for. And, if someone else can take a little bit of that money and free up a little money for the Braves in the offseason, I think they may do it and replace it with another bat, from somewhere else. That being said, what do you get back for Ozuna? You're going to get prospects. And based on what the Braves farm system is right now, yeah, that's what I think could happen. I've thought that all year long. At the beginning of the year, I did a video on how the Braves could go get Jorge Soler back. And it was essentially what I just told you. Trade Marcel Ozuna for prospects, bring Jorge Soler back, and pay him with the money you save, not paying Ozuna. So that idea is still out there, sure. If you want more information on that, you can go watch the trade deadline information or video. But there's a lot of talk out there about bringing guys back. Jock Peterson has been all over the place. The Giants aren't sellers. They've come out, they said they're not sellers. And they are competing for a wild card spot, if nothing else. Jorge Soler, that's a different situation. That's the Marlins. But he is on a 3-year deal. I don't think it's necessarily friendly to the Braves. So we'll monitor that. It wouldn't necessarily surprise me too much. I mean, he is the World Series MVP. We saw a similar situation with Adam Duvall, but he was a free agent at the end of the year. So there's a lot of different ways it could go. But I think it wouldn't surprise me at all if we saw a couple outfielders come our way. And just so you guys know, I am monitoring every bit of trade deadline information I can. I got Twitter open on the computer. I got my phone here giving me alerts. MLB Trade Rumors is up. Doing all I can to monitor. So if something comes through, I will tell you if I see it. But other than that, you can just drop it in the chat. Try to let me know. Super chat it if you want to. That way I am aware and I can react to it right here. But, it's very exciting right now. I'm glad Austin Riley's extended. I think he's one of the best hitters in the league right now. I think not only is he an MVP candidate this year, he could be a perennial MVP candidate for many years to come. We're going to have him locked up for many years of his prime, similar to how we got Olson locked up for his prime. I think we're going to have Riley locked up as well for that amount of time. So it's interesting. It's fun to talk about. And, I think ultimately the Braves aren't done. We're going to have to wait and see what they do. We could see something happen later tonight after I get off the stream, late. We could wake up to news in the morning. Who really knows? I think Alex Anthopoulos is hard at work. I think he's going to want to get something done. He's going to want to show that the Braves are here to play, and I think we're going to do that. So with that said, that's where I think we're at right now. Again, very happy to see Riley extended, and I think that's going to hopefully speak to what they could do with Dansby Swanson. I think they have every intention of trying to lock him up, but, time will tell. That's all we can really say. That being said, I'm going to get as many of you guys, questions answered as I can. First off, I'm going to thank Jonathan Collins for that super chat. If you got a question that you want me to answer, I know the trade deadline is a hot topic. It is every year. Super chat, I'll answer it as quick as I can. I'll tell you what I think about it. Throw me a potential trade that you have. I mentioned the potential trade of Ian Happ and David Robertson to the Braves for a prospect package in return. A lot of people like that. Some people don't. A lot of people want us to target the bullpen. Where are you at? Let me know down in the comment section below, and I really would appreciate it. But that being said, we have a lot to talk about, so let's talk about it. Richard Davis says, with Anderson's bad start Sunday, I can see him going down, and Kirby Yates coming up. Stevens pitched 60 pitches today. He could go 75 in Ian Anderson's scheduled start. He could. I don't think that's necessarily what they want to do with him. I think Ian Anderson has turned a little bit of a corner. He's not perfect, but I do think he's turned a little bit of a corner and he's finding his way. But, that's something that we're going to have to determine before tomorrow is if we need to go get a starting pitcher. I didn't think that was going to be, the target. I know Luis Castillo was out there. A lot of people were talking about that. I didn't think that was in the Braves' best interest. Not, all due respect to Luis Castillo. I think they have other targets that they need to go get. Pitching, we're going to be fine. If you lose one game out of every fifth day, you'll be all right. But that being said, it still needs to be, addressed. And I think it can be addressed within. I mentioned Kyle Muller. I hate to see that he got hurt. I thought he would be, the guy if Anderson got sent down. Now it's probably going to fall into the hands of a Tucker Davidson. But there are options within. You mentioned Jackson Stevens. He pitched 60 innings pitched. We've seen bullpen games before. But I don't think they're going to send Ian Anderson down as of right now. I think they're going to ride with it. I got some good advice from my buddy Leo Mazzoni, who just went to the Braves Hall of Fame. Congrats, Leo. I got some, good advice from him. Sometimes bad days happen. Sometimes bad stretches happen. You have to ride with your pitcher. John Smoltz is a perfect example. Early on in his career, Bobby Cox left him in for the entirety of his rookie year, and a lot of people questioned it. And, look what it turned into. So I have faith in Ian Anderson. We've seen how good he can be. He's looked unsure of himself this year. I think there's no doubting that. But I do have faith in him. That being said, could he use a breather in Gwinnett? Possibly. I don't know what his option situation is. But he could, that would probably benefit him. That being said, I think we got to ride the wave of Ian Anderson right now. And, I always go back to last year a little bit because I look at last year. I look at the bullpen last year specifically. I look at the starting rotation at the first half of last year. And I didn't see a World Series team. And I'm not saying the trade deadline is going to fix everything. But I think, in a 162-game season, there's time to improve. There's time to get better. And there's time to adjust. I think Ian Anderson's got to do that. So we'll see what happens. But, in terms of Kirby Yates coming up, he's still injured as far as I know. He's working his way back. Soroka, I believe, is working his way back. I think he had another setback. But, we're going to have to monitor that. As of right now, you got to play with what you got. And you got Ian Anderson, who, let's be honest, hasn't been great this year, but was phenomenal in the back half of last year. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully he'll have a repeat of last year and be just as good as he was. But thanks, Richard. I appreciate it. But, I think Ian Anderson turned a corner. You mentioned Sunday. He actually pitched pretty well Sunday. So I personally think, he's turned a corner. I saw an interview with David O'Brien where he basically just said, all right, we're going to just see what happens. And he pitched a little bit more freely. Maybe that change in mindset helps him. That's not exactly what you want to hear. You want to hear what's on paper and what's going to fix it. I'm just telling you what he's saying and what we know. Personally, I think the Braves are going to stick with Ian Anderson, and we'll see what happens there. Thank you for that, Richard. Moving on, thank all you guys for tuning in. Do me a favor. I got 91 of you watching, 25 likes. Let's go ahead and hit that like button for me. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. It really helps me out a lot. We are moving to grow this channel. We are moving to improve this channel. It all starts with the like button, so make sure to hit that bell and subscribe as well. But the like button really helps me out. So thank you so much, and let's move on. Derek Smith says he's excited for another decade of big, thick Austin Riley, and I'm here for it. That is young, thick Austin Riley. Get it right. That is a John Boy catchphrase, and I absolutely love it. So, I think, I think Austin Riley has got untapped potential, and that's honestly strange to say considering how good he's been this year. But I think, we're going to see him hit another gear. I think he's, 29 homers right now? Now, that's no Aaron Judge numbers, but he's been phenomenal. And in the National League, it wouldn't surprise me if he finished with the most. Right now, I think it's Kyle Schwarber. But, over, the back half of the year, you never know what's going to happen. I think Austin Riley is set up for a lot of success this year. And you know what? Again, I think he's an MVP candidate. I thought he should have been more of an MVP candidate last year than he was, and he turned out to be. So we'll see what happens, but this is a great deal for the Braves. This is a great deal for Austin Riley, and glad to see it. A lot of people are talking about that. Appreciate it, but we're going to move on a little bit. Give me trade proposals if you can. Super chat those. I'll answer them right on the spot. I'll answer any question that you super chat. But a lot of you guys are in tonight. Mike Jones is in tonight. Jameson is in tonight. He says, okay, let's go get Dansby Swanson re-signed, and we have the infield for the next decade locked up, basically. And I think it's the best infield in the game. Like, I don't think you're going to find another infield that's better than what the Braves have to offer right now. Just on the left side, Dansby and Riley are phenomenal. They were in the All-Star game. Matt Olson could have been in the All-Star game. Ozzy Albies probably would have been in the All-Star game. So it's there's a lot there. There's a lot to unpack there, but I think it's the greatest infield in the game today. And that's kind of a big statement, but find me a better one and we'll talk. But I think having those guys locked up is great for the Braves and great for the team and great for building the team as well. Thanks for that, Jameson. I appreciate it. Tyce Thompson says the Vasquez thing was crazy. I hope he gets in the game tonight for the Astros. Yeah, so there's been a lot of moving parts. I mentioned that. Again, if something new happens, please let me know. I have no way of knowing other than my phone notifying me. I know that the Astros just acquired Christian Vasquez from the Red Sox. That's a big deal. They're trying to improve. There's been a lot of action today, though, for sure, across Major League Baseball. I think the Braves are going to do more probably tomorrow. We are going to go live tomorrow, more than likely. The trade deadline ends at 6 o'clock. I want to say we're going to try to get on here about 5:30 and just await the last few. And at that point, we'll do a review of the trade deadline for the Braves. Tell you what I thought they could have got that they didn't, or tell you how excited I am with what they did get, one or the other. So we'll do that tomorrow night leading into the game. I want to say they play at 7:20 tomorrow. Hopefully, I haven't looked at it, but we will be going live regardless tomorrow at the trade deadline. So prepare for that, and we just make sure to be back here. But yeah, so we'll see. Tyce Thompson says Happ can play second base. That changes everything. Yeah. So Ian Happ is obviously a consistent bat, and that's the true appeal. But for the Braves, he really works out. For one, he's a switch hitter, which means he can hit on the left side, which is something I think the Braves desperately need. But like you mentioned, he can play outfield, second base, and third if you needed it, but you don't because you got Austin Riley. But with Ozzy Albies being hurt, this would be ideal. And Eddie Rosario is sort of a placeholder there. He's got to really get his bat going, obviously. But having Ian Happ around is going to make this team better if it happens. I would love to see it happen. And eventually I think it'll look like this with Eddie on the bench. But personally, I that's the trade that I look at as of right now. We saw David Peralta get off the board. We saw, different players get off the board. That's what I would like to see. And it all starts with Ian Happ. And, until that happens, we don't really know. But until the Braves go get Ian Happ, it won't happen. So we will see what Alex Anthopoulos has up his sleeve. I hope this is along the lines of what he plans to do. I'm not saying Ian Happ is the answer, but I'm saying he could be the answer. He could be what the Braves do. There are other options, make no mistake about it. But Ian Happ is a good one. So we'll see what happens there. Thank you for that, Tice. Jorge, good to hear from you, brother. He says, wouldn't the Cubs ask for Vaughn Grissom if the Braves got Ian Happ and David Robertson? Glad you brought that up. Vaughn Grissom is a big shortstop prospect, but he's young. I think they would ask for it. I don't think they would get it. I think the Braves would probably try to throw in I said package when I brought this up. I think the Braves are going to make a package, but I don't think it's going to be a Vaughn Grissom package. They got, a multitude of pitching, without a doubt. They got a ton of pitching. They could put a headliner in there, but I think the headliner would be surrounded by either one or two other lower-level prospects or younger prospects even. I don't think it's going to be somebody to the, magnitude of Vaughn Grissom. They're going to put in the guys that they don't necessarily, that they got a rating on these guys. They have a number of stars next to these guys and who's available and who's untouchable. Michael Harris was one of those guys that was untouchable. Vaughn Grissom, if he's untouchable, there's a reason. We don't know that he is untouchable, but I think more than likely he is. He's been great in Double-A. But, we saw Trey Harris go today for A-Ray. I thought we could have got more out of Trey Harris a couple of years ago, but his stock has fallen. So don't be surprised if one of these bigger name guys goes. But the Braves, like I said, the window is now. And I'm not saying the window couldn't be there in the future, but they have to play to win right now. If they can get something to help them, then they need to do it. That being said, Kyle Muller fits the bill. And again, I like Kyle Muller. I went and personally watched him pitch in Gwinnett because I like how this kid pitches. I like what I'm seeing from him, and I think he's going to have a bright future in a Braves uniform, hopefully. But it would not surprise me, given the recent hand injury, if he got traded. And I only say that because he's not going to be able to help the Braves this year, and that is, huge. So it wouldn't surprise me if they got a return for him and bet on this year. But that being said, it doesn't necessarily have to go that way. You could see a combination of 3 or 4 or 5 even lower level prospects. Catching right now is pretty locked up. Wouldn't surprise me if we saw a catcher go. Third base is locked up now with Austin Riley. So there's a lot of options there. Your outfield, for the most part, is pretty locked in. You got Acuna on a 10-year deal. You got Michael Harris forever. Left field's really the open spot. Right now it's absorbed by Eddie Rosario's 2-year contract. So they have options that they can do because there's nowhere for them to go. But I don't know that that's necessarily what they're looking to do. We got a super chat from Max Powers. Thank you. What is the chance of the Braves' interest in Taylor in KC as a cheaper option? Look, like I said, I think that Ian Happ is a great piece. I would like to see a trade like this, and the reason I really went for the Cubs here is because they can kill 2 birds with one stone. Or kill 2 birds with one stone and get a bullpen piece and an outfielder, which I think would be ideal. But, it's not necessarily got to go that way. Michael Taylor is a great player. I will say that the fact that he's right-handed doesn't help. But, the dude's a good fielder. He's got a gold glove. I'm literally looking at his baseball reference right now. A very similar year right now to Ian Happ. Very similar year. He's got a 278 average with 3 less homers. He's got 6. But he could be the guy they go get, and he very well may be. He's not a free agent next year, I will say that, which tends to help, but neither is Ian Happ, so they're right there together. There's a lot of guys out there like that, and I appreciate you, saying this because it brings up a good point. There's a lot of guys that could be the guy the Braves go get. A lot of people have thrown out tons of ideas. Yours makes sense, to tell you the truth. I don't know if it's necessarily going to happen. Kansas City's definitely a seller. They already got rid of Benintendi. I thought Benintendi might be an option until he was off the board. So it's, we'll see. That's all I can really say. I like the idea of Michael Taylor. It is a cheaper option, but I don't think the Braves are really focused on a cheaper option. I think they want the best option. And I think the fact that, Ian Happ is, can play so many different positions and is a switch hitter could be where they go. Not to say that that's a definite. We got another super chat from William Fulgham. Would Rodon and Jock be too much with our depth in the minors? Yes, without a doubt. And mainly because not even what we could go get them, sure. We could give up a Spencer Strider to go get one of those guys, but we would never do that. And also, the Giants aren't sellers. They're just not. They are competing for a wild card, and under the new, under the new rules in CBA, the wild card spot is a lot better spot than it ever has been before. Instead of a 1-game, it's 3-game series, and it's a much better chance to move forward into the postseason. So they are competing. They're only 3 or 4 games back, I think, from the wild card spot. But they are competing in that, and I think it's possible that they get it. I think they think it's possible they get it, and I think they're probably going to be active in the trade deadline. So we'll see, but it's not a guarantee at all. But I personally think they're out of the question. They are not where the Braves are going to go, and being that they competed last year, I think they have eyes on competing this year. I think they did when they signed Jock Peterson. So we'll see. It'd be great if we got Jock. I'd love it, but it's not, it's not really that necessary. It's not really that pressing. So, we'll see. But I think it's a little bit too much of an expectation. That being said, if it happened, I'd love it. You heard it here first from William Fulgham. But I do think it's a little bit. I just think you're not. I think you're asking for a lot. So. Personally, no, but not a bad idea. I'd love it if it happened, but I don't think it will. Thank you for the question there, William, and thank you for the super chat. By the way, if you are out there and you can, make sure to super chat. It helps me out a ton. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, all that good stuff. But it does help the channel out a lot. It all starts with the like button. So thank you for that. Thank you, William. And if you have a question, if you have a trade idea, go ahead and super chat me. I'll answer. We got a very active chat tonight. I saw Ashley. Hello, Ashley. But we have a very active chat tonight. I'm trying my best to keep up with it, along with keeping up with any trade rumors, any trade news. I haven't seen anything as of late, but it is very active today. And it could happen while we're on here. I'm going to try to answer as many questions as I can, but again, no guarantee unless you super chat. That's the only way I can really make a guarantee. That being said, thank you guys for tuning in, and I really do appreciate it. Jameson says, such a massive deal to get Austin Riley a great extension. I agree. This is the biggest deal in Braves history in terms of a sum of money. Now, people have been paid more per year, but they haven't had this long and this much money paid up front. Signed, guaranteed, no doubt about it. They're getting that amount of money. So it says a lot about Austin Riley to me. The fact that Freddie Freeman got that deal says a lot about Freddie Freeman as to who he is as a player. I think it says the same exact thing about Austin Riley. I think the Braves believe in him. I think he has proven himself to be what the hype was. And I'm excited to see his career at third base for the Atlanta Braves. So that being said, happy to see it as well. Thank you, Jameson. So let's move on. Sorry guys, I'm getting blown up with messages, so thank you for that. Joe says the only way to move Ozuna is for another bad contract. I think you could get prospects, but he'd have to go to a team that's competing. And I don't know that the Braves are going to be comfortable sending a guy like Ozuna to any other National League team to get beat up on, especially with their history. Adam Duvall, Jorge Soler. I don't know they're necessarily going to do that. I mean, look, I'm sure they'd love to lose that $16 to $18 million a year, but that being said, it's not a guarantee. I don't think they trade Ozuna personally, but I wouldn't mind it if they did. RLP says, I'm just saying AA is getting ready to make another huge deadline. I think so too. We have talked extensively about last year's deadline because it is probably the greatest trade deadline ever, and I'll say that. I'm not afraid of saying that. I mean, you're talking about a trade deadline that you virtually lost nothing except Bryce Wilson. Other than that, it was low-level prospects. And you got Adam Duvall, Richard Rodriguez, who a lot of people overlook. He did steady the bullpen a lot in the latter half of the season, just didn't make it to the postseason. You got Jorge Soler, World Series MVP. You got Eddie Rosario, NLCS MVP. And you got Jock Peterson, who, his whole message can't go unnoticed. So that being said, yeah, I think AA is going to make a big trade deadline. I don't think it's going to be as big as last year. I don't think it needs to be as big as last year. But thank you for that, RLP. We got another super chat. Thank you for that. Jorge says, Braves are the poster child for struggling teams at the deadline because of last year. What positions should be the top concern for the Braves this deadline? Bullpen, without a doubt. If you could get a couple right-handers, that would be awesome. I know I've mentioned David Robertson tonight, but I want to highlight another one, Anthony Bass. If you can get him from the Marlins. We already traded across the division to go get A-Ray today. If you could go get Anthony Bass and not lose a fortune from the Marlins, look, we traded with him last year. We got Adam Duvall. Maybe you can, in the same token of this trade where you're trading, a prospect package for Ian Happ and David Robertson, you could potentially trade a prospect package. It'd have to be a pretty good one, but you could potentially trade a prospect package for a 3-year deal with Jorge Soler and Anthony Bass as opposed to David Robertson. Just something to keep an eye on. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. But Anthony Bass is another guy that I think if we can get could really help the pen. He's right-handed. He's got a sub-2 ERA in the first half. Much like David Robertson, fits the mold a bit. If you want more info on that, make sure to go check out the trade deadline video I did last week. I think I pretty much explain everything there. But those are the two guys I'm looking at as of right now that make sense. They're not going to cost that much. I believe they're both free agents at the end of the year. David Robertson and Anthony Bass. If you can't get Soler, maybe a prospect package that lands you Anthony Bass and Anthony Bender would be good too. Because Anthony Bender, I think he's got a 4 ERA, probably wouldn't cost that much, but he's a guy that they believe in. I think he's a guy that has a lot of upside and potential, but it's not necessarily something that's going to impact the team now, but could in the future. That being said, I don't think they're going to do that. I think, if anything, they're going to target Anthony Bass, and anything that comes along with it is a bonus. But we'll see. Anthony Hayes came in the chat as well. Do you think Drury, I'm going to assume you meant Drury, from the Reds happens? Let's look him up. Look, I appreciate any and all trade options. So bring them all to me. Put them all in there. Make sure to like the video, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'm looking at Brandon Drury right now. Look, the Reds are sellers, so that's the first thing, right? Michael Taylor was brought up from Kansas City. They've already been proven to be sellers. I think the Cubs should be sellers. The Marlins should be sellers to some degree. Not necessarily everybody, because I think in a few years they're going to be pretty good. But Brandon Drury is an option. He does play, his primary position is third baseman, but he can play second base and outfield. He is a free agent at the end of the year, which is something that Ian Happ is not. So this could happen. He's got 20 homers on the year, 275 average. I would like it if this happened. I wish I had a graphic to show you, but this is something that, could be really good for them. But, only time will tell. Again, the Reds are, they started the year off good, but after that they pretty much depleted. So they haven't been what I would consider to be a competitor. So I think the Reds are pretty much good on selling anybody. Much like the Marlins are, basically taking offers for anybody except Sandy Alcantara, I think you're probably going to have a similar thing in Cincinnati, but I don't think anybody's off the table other than Joey Votto. And the reason I say that is because Joey Votto doesn't want to leave. So that being said, it's not necessarily a guarantee, but, I think ultimately you're going to see the Braves target something that, frankly, it's hard to say, right? You never know how negotiations are going because we don't get to see that. We're not privy to that information. But whatever team gives you a Drury or Ian Happ type player for, frankly, what you don't want to give up, it's not always about the name value. It's about, okay, what can I get for this? And if I can't get it, then I'm moving on and going to the next team. That's how I think AA works. That's how I think any negotiation works. But personally, if I'm picking, I think an extra year with Happ would be good. But it's not necessarily, what we need. But I think it would be good. I think if you can include David Robertson in that as well, I think that would be nice. But, it's not, necessarily, we could see a lot of things happen. We won't know until tomorrow night. I like the idea of Drury. I think that would be okay. I see somebody else in the chat said Drury and Maley could be pretty good. Yeah, I mean, any of those options are good. And I'm not, knocking you. I think it's a good one as well. But, this is just the one that I came up. But any trade deal like this, I'm okay with. Anything that we can get to fix, both ends of the spectrum, I'm good with. Whether we can get a bullpen arm and an outfielder, that would be phenomenal. If we trade one team and get an outfielder and one team to get a bullpen piece, I'm good with that as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be that. I just think this is something that the Braves could target and be successful in receiving. Plus, we traded with the Cubs last year and got Jock Peterson once they found out they weren't going to compete and they had a fire sale. It would be awesome either way. But, we'll see. I think the Braves are prioritizing bullpen and outfield. That's what I think. And anything that is affordable, which Brandon Drury is definitely affordable, is definitely an option. So thanks for that. Thanks for that question. I really do appreciate it, Anthony. If you have any other trade, get them out there. Super chat me, and I'll answer as many of them as I can. A lot of people are active in the chat tonight. Trade deadlines are always so fun. Last year, it was the first time I ever went live for a trade deadline. I didn't really know what to expect. And it was one thing after another. It was exciting. So we're hopefully going to have a familiar feeling tomorrow like we did last year with the trade deadline. Hopefully it'll be one thing after another, and hopefully we'll be live for it. If the Braves make a lot of last-minute moves, they may not. Either way, we're going to monitor it while we go live. We're going to basically put it in review up until, we know for sure, okay, the Braves are done. Not necessarily, they're not necessarily for sure done, but we're going to basically put it in review until, we find something new out. A lot of you guys are active in the chat. I've been trying to reply to as many of them as I can, but you guys have been so active tonight, I'm not sure that I'm going to get to everything. Jameson says Double A is going to do something special tomorrow. I would agree. Jorge says some Mets fans really thought they might get Soto. Has Soto landed anywhere while I'm on here? I don't believe he has. I feel like I would have got that notification. Let me see. No, so no updates as of late. Soto is interesting because I don't think the Nationals really want to get rid of Soto. I don't think Soto much cares where he goes, anyway, based on what I've read and what I've seen in interviews and that kind of thing. His mentality is, I'm here until I'm not. I think the Padres are going all out for Soto. I think the Dodgers would be dumb not to go all out for Soto. I thought the Red Sox might go for Soto because I think the Yankees might, and the Red Sox were competing to some degree with the Yankees. But I think they're pretty much out after today. They're trading Vasquez and some others, so maybe they get rid of J.D. Martinez. Maybe, they just say, we're not competing this year, we'll go for next. But I think Soto is likely going to be, it's going to wind up with a competitor. It would be interesting if he wound up with, like, the Rays, who any other time can't afford a bat like Juan Soto, unless they, bring him up through their organization. But right now with Soto, it's all about what you can give the Nationals. The Rays actually do have a pretty good farm system, so that would be fairly interesting. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it would be interesting if it did. But, with Soto, we're just going to have to wait and see. If he's not traded by tomorrow, he'll be a National till the end of the year. That's all we really know. In terms of Mets fans, they need to keep an eye out for Jacob deGrom, who came out again and said, if I'm not mistaken, that he will be opting out of his contract at the end of the year. And, we all remember that headline, that eye-grabbing headline of Jacob deGrom could be an Atlanta Brave in 2023. I don't know that that's necessarily a fact. I mean, look, it's all up to what he wants. I don't mind paying him a little bit, but I don't think the Braves are going to be in the conversation of paying him, just a huge deal. I just don't. That being said, he's going to be highly sought after. The Braves may be in there. But Mets fans are, if you think Mets fans don't have the Braves in the rearview mirror a little bit and keeping an eye on them, they are. They're fearful because they've seen it happen before. The Mets are going to be a team to deal with, though, this year. They're better, I think, than they were last year. I think the Braves are better than they were last year as well. They're playing the best baseball they can get. They start again, I think, a series tomorrow, 5 games in 4 days with a doubleheader. So, time will tell what happens, but I think the Braves have a good chance of taking the NL East. I think, they got more time than they did last year to do it. So we'll see. Again, thank you all for tuning in tonight. I really do appreciate it. You guys have been very active, and I truly do appreciate it. And make sure, again, to like the video. That really helps me get out to a lot of other places. But, we'll see. John Hamm brings up a good point. I'm just sort of trying to scroll through and get as many of you guys as I can that are actually asking questions. John Hamm brings up a good point, though. He says, if Acuna, Ozuna, and Rosario were hitting, there would be no need for a bat. I agree with you, and it's not necessarily anybody's fault. We talked about Acuna the other day. I did a video on him slumping, and I don't usually do that, but I thought it best to do it because personally, I've never seen Acuna exactly like he is right now, because Acuna, just doesn't look like he, is having a lot of fun. Now things have changed. The walk-off yesterday was nice, to see him. Perk up a little bit. But to be honest with you, I saw a difference in the next game after I did that video where it's like, okay, he's getting hits. He's playing, and he's stealing bases. It's not like he's not doing his job, or at least trying to do his job. But he's visually been frustrated, and I think we're all aware of that. I told you that, I told you that Acuna, probably wasn't doing so well because, the lack of Ozzy Albies being around. I don't know that that's necessarily fact. I think it's interesting to bring up. But I do believe there's some correlation there. I think Acuna is ultimately going to figure it out. In terms of Ozuna, Ozuna hasn't looked like 2020 Ozuna all year. I don't know that there's going to be a time where he flips it. He's the guy that when he's hot can carry a team. Rosario, I have a little bit more patience for because of what we know about his struggles with eyesight. It's not necessarily a great excuse at this point, but there is at least factual evidence as to why he's not been hitting well. But again, you're right, he's not hitting well. And if they were all on fire, there would be no need for a bat. And until they, pick it up, that's where we're at. So, we will see. We will see. Philip Powell says there is a Padres YouTuber saying he has intel that Soto is headed to the Padres. Look, I'm going to be honest with you. I have intel with the Braves to some degree. We never know. A lot of people come out and say there's tons of false information out there. So just, take a step back. But, I think the Padres have a good chance of landing him. If anybody does, I think the Padres are there. Because, look, if anybody needs something to get over the hump a little bit, with Tatis being out as well, having Soto in that Padre lineup could give the Dodgers a lot of trouble. And they got to get over the Dodgers, who we all know how stressful that can be. So we will see. We will see. But I don't know that it's necessarily... I wouldn't believe everything you hear on the internet, as they say. Not to knock on that Padres YouTuber, but I'm a little bit more cautious. I try to keep an eye on those kind of things. They are definitely in the hunt. They are definitely in the mix, and I think they're going all out to get him. And they should. I mean, if anybody can help the Padres win now, it's Juan Soto. But it's not necessarily guaranteed like that. Adam Wallace says, I like Happ and Robertson to fill needs. I feel the price may not be as high as it was because teams are already filling their needs with other trades. That's the other thing. The Cubs want a return, and to be honest with you, I thought for Jock Peterson we underpaid a bit from what I remember. But, the Cubs just want a return. They don't necessarily need the best return. You don't have to give them a Michael Harris for these two guys. You can give them, you can give them 4 or 5 lower level prospects that may never see the light of day in the major leagues. Not to say that's going to happen, but the Cubs have to rebuild pretty much completely. And they need, not to say they need numbers, quantity over quality, but they do. They need more prospects that, can be good. And at the end of the day, for the Braves at this point, if let's just say the window for the Braves winning a World Series again is the next 4 to 5 years, right? Guys that are 3 to 4 years away, could help in those last couple, but they got to focus on what they have right now and readjust later. And for the Cubs, they have to prepare for 5, 6, 7 years away, I think. That's how they won in 2016. They had all those prospects raised up together. They can't afford to pay everybody. That's why they don't have any of the 2016 team other than Jason Hayward on their squad right now. So, or at least for the time being, Contreras, we'll see what happens there. I think it's a matter of time. But, the Cubs are going to want to rebuild, and we'll see what happens there. I do like Happ and Robertson. I think they fit the bill a bit. But I don't. It's not necessarily perfect. It's not necessarily, given that that's what's going to happen. But I do like the fact that you do kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You trade with one team. You can probably get a deal for them. And, I think Alex Anthopoulos could really work some magic there. Now, that being said, it's not guaranteed. But we'll see. Before we go anywhere else, I wanted to highlight this for just a second. I did an interview with a guy named Cole Phillips, who I guarantee you've heard his name before. He's a 2nd-round pick last week by the Braves, and I just got to tell you, this kid is going to be something in the future. He would have been a 1st-round pick, but he has suffered Tommy John surgery. He is recovering from that. If you want to get to know him a bit, you can go check out that interview. It is on the channel. He is a phenomenal kid. He's got a great attitude and a great mindset for battling back from Tommy John, and just a competitive mindset. I think that over anything is something that you guys are going to want to hear. But again, Cole Phillips, that interview is on the channel. I'd love it for you guys to go check it out. Give him some encouragement. We plan to follow him at least to some degree throughout his journey in the minor leagues. This is a kid who I really look forward to following, and he's a kid I believe in. By the way, dude throws in the high 90s, flirting with 100, and he's 19 years old. So he could be pretty good when he comes up. But yeah, go check out that interview again, Cole Phillips, on the channel right now. I would appreciate it. Let's see. Jameson says, okay, wondering if you've thought about going to the Braves after the... I gotta move on from that. Sorry, buddy. Miguel says, hey, Tyler, how long is it going to take Double-A to cut Will Smith? They cut Cano so easy. All right, for one, we're paying Will Smith a lot more than we were paying Cano. The Mets were paying Cano more than we were. Will Smith also is a World Series hero. So that has to be brought into, I think he's a team leader. And to be honest with you, I think there's a role for Will Smith on this team. I don't know that it's in the leverage innings and the high leverage innings. I think it's more so in the Jesse Chavez pickup role a bit. I don't think, and I don't want to knock him like that. I mean, look, we're Will Smith fans here. I interviewed Will Smith. I like Will Smith. He's nothing but good to me. Great person. And again, I think he's one of these guys, we saw it last year, that could just snap into it, when the stakes are the highest. And there's been some key moments where he hasn't looked, like Will Smith. There were moments last year that he didn't look like Will Smith. I think, he's not a closer anymore. And, that I'm kind of glad we got Kenley Jansen at this point, because look at how much we'd be struggling. A lot of people questioned that move by Double-A at the beginning of the year that said we were overpaying for Kenley. Maybe we are, but looking at it now, I'm glad we did it. But Will Smith, I think personally, can find a role on this team, especially with how lackluster the bullpen has been. And when I say lackluster, the guys that are good, the guys that have been solid over the years, A.J. Minter, Tyler Matzik, and even Kenley Jansen have been overworked, overused. They've been shown, they've just been overshown. Really, everybody's gotten a good look at them. And I think if you diversify the bullpen a little bit and get rid of your Darren O'Days, who's on the injured list right now, but you get rid of your Darren O'Days, you get rid of, the guys that aren't, that great. You can't throw A.J. Minter out there every day. You can't throw Tyler Matzik out there every day. You can't throw Will Smith out there every day. To be honest with you, you can't throw Jesse Chavez out there every day. You gotta, that's why I think going to get a David Robertson or going to get, an Anthony Bass would really help tremendously. But Tyler Matzik, I think, is set up to have a great second half. I think he's coming back, and I think he's set up to be what he was last year. Not to say that that's guaranteed. It never is, but I think he could be. Will Smith, I think, could lock in. If it doesn't happen, I think he moves down the totem pole a little bit. But I don't think getting rid of him is the option. They cut Cano a little easier than I would have liked, but the dude was like 2 for 48. I mean, like, he wasn't hitting on anything really, so I'm not surprised. He had a good moment with Joe Torre the other day. That was nice, but I'm not surprised. I originally thought that at the trade deadline they would probably just, let Arcia and Cano handle it. But given the past couple of weeks, right now, if that happens, I think it's obviously just going to be Arcia. But, they got A-Ray who can play, a multitude of positions. They're going to fill that spot. They may get Ian Happ and stick him in the outfield and let A-Ray and Adrianza fill that spot. There's no real guarantee what they're going to do. But I think Cano was a good choice because we were paying him virtually nothing. But I don't think he was the answer, unfortunately. Andrew says, I'm not going to be mad if we acquire just one good player. I wouldn't be either. I don't think there's anything wrong with that statement at all, Andrew. Or Andre, whatever your name is. I think it's Andre. Yeah, Andre, sorry about that. Andre says, I'm not going to be mad if we just acquire one solid player. I agree with you, and to be honest with you, I know I keep showing this graphic, but Ian Happ is a guy that I think is a solid player, but he also can play multiple positions, and he can play, in multiple spots in the lineup. He's a solid hitter. He's a good defender. This is a guy that I think could solve a lot of the Braves' problems, and, it's going to take time to see if, that happens or not. But, I think if there's one solid player out there, you need an outfielder, and you got to just get by with the bullpen. But that being said, we're going to have to just see what happens. Let me see. Marty says, I hope we get Ian Happ and Richard or another good reliever. I definitely think, look, if we got Ian Happ, you could go in and you could get, an Anthony Bass. Look, the guy that I want, the bullpen guy that I absolutely would die for right now is David Bednar. I mean, that's a guy that I think could be, the best reliever on an already pretty good bullpen, heavy club. But he's been phenomenal this year. I don't know why the Pirates won't trade him. I don't understand it. I think he's a free agent at the end of the year. The Pirates aren't competing. He'll re-sign, but I don't understand why not trade him and get a return. They've already said that they don't want to do that. So, we'll see. But, it's going to – I'm surprised they haven't done that. But all indications are that David Bednar is in Pittsburgh to stay. So we will see. But yeah, those are the guys that I would like to go get. And if you want more talk like that, if you want more conversation about the guys that I would personally go get, I just go watch that trade video and you'll get all the information you need to know, really. But we will see. Let's see. Andre says, what's the deal with Gregory Soto from the Tigers? For one, with Gregory Soto, a lot of people brought up Soto, and rightfully so. The dude's great. But he's left-handed, which the Braves don't really need another lefty. I mean, look, we'll take Soto, but I don't know that they're going to target a lefty. I want to say he's got a lot of years of control. It would probably take a major prospect package to get him. And to be honest with you, I think they have to have their priorities a little bit more broad. I think they have to go get an outfielder. They have to go get a reliever, and they can't just focus on a reliever. If we only needed a reliever, Gregory Soto may be the option if he was right-handed. That would be the perfect scenario. But we don't. You're talking about a guy who I don't even think is a free agent until like 2027. So I think ultimately, he may get traded, but I don't think it'll be to the Braves. I don't think, I don't think that the Braves are really in the market for that kind of thing. But we'll see. Adam Wallace says trade for Josh Bell, and you'll definitely have an outfielder that can hit to the end of the year. Josh Bell's great. He's great. I just think, I wouldn't be mad at it at all. I just think it's too high value on the other end compared to a guy like Ian Happ. You're going to have to bring a pretty good prospect package, and the Braves don't have as many prospects as they used to have. They have some good ones, but they don't have quite the level of what they used to have, really, as trade pieces that they can say, okay, this guy's good, but is he our third baseman of the future, right? That's what Austin Riley was. That's why we turned down trade offers for these guys. Usually when the Braves make a trade, I understand that, okay, we've accepted that that's not our guy of the future. The only one like that I didn't really see was Shea Langoliers, who I still think has a very bright future with the Oakland A's. But I did see it with Christian Pache, who was in the same trade. So Shea Langoliers is great, but we had William Contreras in the waiting as well. To be honest with you, I thought Shea was going to take that spot over William, and I knew one of them was going to get traded. So it's all about what your team can survive through, what your team can build around, and what your team, what's the best your team can be without a certain player is a lot of that. I don't think we have enough to get Josh Bell and keep a solid, handful of prospects. I think it would take a lot. Granted, the Nationals are sellers right now, so we will see. I think he's definitely headed somewhere. Machete Moonlight says Rosario is hitting .313 over the last 7 days. I think he's getting back. I would absolutely love it if Rosario came back. I was all over Rosario. He was the one guy, and I've said this before, I don't mind saying it again, he was the one guy that I thought the Braves needed to go get in the trade deadline. Over Jock Peterson, over Jorge Soler. I thought Eddie Rosario was the guy that could, over a 162-game season, hit .313 all year long. And if he can do that for the second half, then that's great. I just need him to do it. And right now, I'm not seeing it. So hopefully that'll be the case. And that would be phenomenal. I mean, we saw what he did in the NLCS. We saw what he did the latter half of the season last year. We saw what he did in the World Series. I mean, the dude was a stud. And I was there for a lot of it. And I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And he could be lightning in a bottle at the end of the year. Who really knows? But as of right now, in the regular season, I mean, I want to say he's still hitting below 200, probably closer to 100 than he is 2. So it's just hard to say. And the eyesight thing is an issue, but we haven't really seen a major step forward, and we need to see that soon. But thank you for that. Hopefully it'll continue, like you said, but no guarantees that happens, and that's all we can really hope for. So that being said, I would love it if he did it because look, I was right here with him. So we'll see. Tyler Hunter says, do you consider Grissom to be untouchable? His stats keep improving as he progresses through the minors. It's hard to say, right? If you lock up Dansby for 10 years, how untouchable is a shortstop prospect? The thing about Grissom is he's young enough to move to another spot. It would be awesome if they converted him to be an outfielder. That would be epic for the Braves because then you'd have an outfield consisting of Vaughn, Grissom, Michael Harris, and Ronald Acuna one day, in theory. But if they don't lock up Dansby, especially, I think he's untouchable after this trade deadline. Braden Shoemake, unlike Vaughn Grissom, hasn't improved through the minors. He's steadily been around a 230 hitter and not a ton of power, I don't believe. So Shoemake's good with the glove, but I don't know that he's our shortstop of the future without Dansby. I think he might be a fill-in, a placeholder, but I don't think he's the next guy necessarily. That's just what I'm looking at right now. Dansby, for the first couple of years of his career, we didn't know how long he was going to be with the Braves. So, we're talking about this. These guys are all young, but Vaughn Grissom for me right now is Michael Harris territory of untouchable. That being said, he could fall off tomorrow. I mean, we don't know. But right now, I think he's untouchable unless you just get a return that is like, I can't turn this down. If it's, I don't even know what would do that really. I can't think of one player that would make me go, get rid of Vaughn Grissom. But it's all about really what the Braves consider to be their window, what the Braves consider to be their future, what they consider to be, best for them going forward. So we'll see. If they think they can get by without him and there's a return that is, worth it, then maybe. But personally, I think he's untouchable. Michael Harris, Industry Streetwear, says Harris needs to be locked down. Harris is locked down. Harris is not going anywhere. It's fun. I'll tell you a funny story while I got you. I got a buddy. He may be watching right now, so I can't really say too many things bad about him. He said the other day, he was like, when Adam Duvall got hurt the first time before he came back, he goes, I don't know where they're going to put Harris when Duvall gets back. And I had to look at him and say, man, Michael Harris is not going anywhere. Look at the way he's hitting. He is not going anywhere. The way he's fielding, that guy's going to be, he's been one of the most consistent bats recently. I think he's shown that he's here to stay. He's playing like he doesn't want to go down, and we'll see. No rookie comes. Yeah, I agree with the Industry. I completely agree with you. I think Michael Harris might be 1 in a million. I really do. Sorry about that, guys. I'm been talking for a long time. Robert says, I wonder if Ozuna will get hot. He's a streaky guy. He's better than 220. Sure, but, he's got to improve. He's got to switch it around. He's got to change something. He's got to make some adjustment. I haven't seen that. Philip Perryman says, really hope the Braves can get either Ian Happ or Brandon Drury. I'll be honest with you. I hadn't even thought about Brandon Drury because there's so many different names you can talk about. I'm sure there's others that we're not even talking about right now. Brandon Drury would be a great asset to the Braves because he can play so many different positions. If you can get a bullpen arm from the Reds, which I'm not too educated on them, but if you can get a bullpen arm from the Reds that is comparable to David Robertson, then I think that could be, in the same mold as the trade I proposed with Ian Happ. But I would love for the Ian Happ trade to happen, mainly because I predicted it. But yeah, let me see. Jorge says the Will Smith Juan Soto beef is hilarious. I agree with you. I don't know whose side of it I'm on, to tell you the truth. I think it's a mixture of, old versus young, traditional versus not. It's just a clash of, different personalities. And that's a lot of what Bumgarner's issues are. Will Smith was with Bumgarner in the bullpen at one time. So, maybe it's because of that. But, it's been fun to watch. Hopefully there's another episode to the saga. Industry says, I wish we didn't need Strider as a starter because imagine him closing. Agreed. I think they're going to keep him a starter as long as they can. once he, everybody's been talking about how many innings he's thrown as a rookie and how hard he's throwing. If there comes a time where he struggles, as starter, like get past 4 or 5 innings, like Ian Anderson typically does, it'll be for different reasons, mainly because of velocity. I think at that point, he could be a bullpen arm for the remainder of the year. He would be a weapon in the postseason. And in the postseason, especially like a 5-game or 7-game series, you really only need 3 starters. I mean, maybe 4. So, you really crunch time. And at that point, I think Strider would be a bullpen arm. I really do. Because he is such a weapon. He's a guy, and he's a bullpen arm that can cover 2 or 3 innings. I mean, this is a guy who would be an absolute weapon out of the pen. And there's a million things he could do with him. He's so young that he's versatile. We'll just have to see. We will see. A lot of people are talking about Strider, the Industry Streetwear. Which, by the way, Industry Streetwear, if you're out there, we could use some. We could use some sponsors for this show. So if you got streetwear, let me know, and I may put it on the channel. He says, I see Strider as a future Hader, possibly. Hader, I believe, got moved to the Padres today. So the Padres are going all out, which they tend to do anyway. It's not like it's a huge surprise. But yeah, they went and got him today. Let me see. I'm sort of looking through. I'm just sort of trying to monitor. Former Atlanta Brave Matt Joyce retires as of today, just now. Oh, wow. That was at 8 o'clock. I'm just now getting that news. Wow. He had a good little stint with the Braves. So that's some news. But yeah, we're trying to monitor the trade deadline as much as we can. I'll probably be on here another 30 minutes or so get your questions in. Hader is a good comp. I like what Chip Carey said, because Chip Carey said that he throws like Billy Wagner, or he looks like Billy Wagner and throws like Carey would, which I see a lot of. And I mean, the dude's got so much potential, and he's so young. He's just been phenomenal. I think it's, I think it's fun when a young guy comes in and does that, especially, the comp to Kerry Wood's interesting because of how young Kerry Wood was and what he did as a young man. I think we all are aware of that, but we'll see. A lot of you guys are active tonight. I see we got let me see. Somebody, Joe Jimenez or Andrew Chaffin or Michael Fulmer from the Tigers if they're not too expensive. I don't think anybody from the Tigers outside of Gregory Soto would be that expensive. It's an option. I don't know that it's where the Braves are going to go, but don't believe it. They're shopping around. They're going to go to every end of the spectrum to figure out what they want to do. But yeah, I mean, we could talk all different types of those. I think that a lot of, it's funny because every time I do a trade video, I did it last year, I did it this year, I gave you like a sample of, probably 7 or 8 different potential trade ideas, and more come to mind as time goes on. I'll propose like 7 or 8, and I'll say, all right, let me know yours in the chat, and somebody inevitably will go, how could you not mention so and so and so and so? It was like, well, there's an infinite amount of possibilities, and there is. I mean, there really is. I mean, look, you guys, I can't remember who did it, but somebody brought up Brandon Drury. I want to say it was Anthony Thomas brought up Brandon Drury. That's something I hadn't even thought of. And it's a great idea, but I haven't seen it brought up anywhere. And I sort of look at, okay, who's a free agent this year? And I go by that. Like, I sort of try to eliminate different things. Riley Keeney says, do you believe that J.D. Martinez will be the key for the Cards? I thought Juan Soto might head to the Cardinals. I thought that would be interesting because, I mean, you're talking about a team that has 3 potential future Hall of Famers. Wainwright's on the edge there, but they're all ending their career this year. And, I thought the Cardinals may want to go out with a bang. Why not go get Juan Soto? I mean, to me, the left-handed Albert Pujols of the past, So I thought that was a possibility, but there's so many different options. I mean, there really is. We will see. But, yeah, I appreciate all you guys tuning in tonight. I got so many different comments. I'm trying to sort of monitor and see if I see anything new. Tice Thompson, I see you, buddy. He says I should use baseball trade value. Have you ever considered it? I do use it. I just don't show it on videos very much. I do sort of try to use it to get an idea, but trade value to me is not factual necessarily. I'm sure that they use it when they, before they make a trade, but I sort of eyeball it in a way. Like I look at it and go, okay, and if it's comparable, then I can use it. It doesn't have to be exact. So I don't typically show it. I more so go, all right, what makes sense for both teams? It's not always trade value. Sometimes it's, what a team needs. We need instant impact. Some team might need future impact. I try to look at all different kinds of aspects. Trade value is something I use, but again, I don't present it to you guys. So that's all that really is. Kenny says, I'd love a Jock Rodon package deal, but like you said, I don't think we can afford it. Kenny, it's not just that we can't afford it. It's the Giants are competitors. I mean, we'd have to give them quite the package for them to go, all right, yep, year's over. You can have Jock and Rodon. They are competing for a wild card spot. And they could change their mind, sure, but we'll see. Austin Nocho, I hope I got your name right. I apologize if I didn't. Do you think the Braves lock down Dansby this year? I would love them to lock down Dansby. I'd like them to lock him down right now before the trade deadline ends tomorrow, because at that point I think we could do a little bit more shopping with our shortstop prospects. Dansby's had a great year. I don't know that he's ever going to have another year like he's having right now. It is a contract year. That tends to help a little bit. Not to say that that's what's going on, but it does happen that way with some players. He's been a streaky hitter every year up until this year. I think he wants to be a Brave, but I'd like to see him extended. The one guy that I was sure the Braves would extend was Austin Riley, because I firmly believed that Austin Riley wanted to be a Brave, and I think the Braves wanted Austin Riley. And why wouldn't you? But Austin being a Mississippi kid, I just see it, frankly, in his personality. I'm good where I'm at. I think he's got a lot of the Chipper Jones in him. And I hope Dansby does too. I think Dansby loves being in Atlanta. He's from this area. There's no reason to really want to go anywhere else, but I hate to say it, money is quite the it can be quite the deciding factor. And I was hoping after he saw what happened with Freddie, he'd go ahead and do it at the trade deadline, not go to free agency, and he could still get extended later in the year. But it would be nice if he went ahead and did it so the Braves could make decisions for the future at the trade deadline and really shop around. I think that would help a lot. Anthony Hood wants to know, what about trading Ian Anderson and getting another starter? Well, Anthony, for one, you got Ian Anderson locked down, I think, for at least a few more years. Don't quote me on that, but I want to say he's locked down for at least a few more years. That being said, that's not all the time, the deciding factor. Anderson is locked in until 2027. So I think that's part of it. You're not paying him a whole lot. Also, his trade value is down right now. He hasn't had a great year. Coming off the World Series, you probably could have got quite a bit for him. But after this year, I think a lot of people are questioning, all right, how good is this guy, including us? So that being said, it's not necessarily out of the question. It could happen, and I think you could get a return for him. But I don't think it's necessarily what the Braves are going to want to do. And a lot of people are going, Ian Anderson, isn't good anymore. He needs to go to Gwinnett. He needs to do this. A stint in Gwinnett might be great for him, right? But I think also sometimes riding a guy out and letting him, figure it out helps. A lot of people have been talking about, just Ian Anderson's lost it. He's not the guy he used to be. I don't think that's the case. I think, I did a kind of a deep dive into Baseball Savant with Ian Anderson. And there's no real change from this year to last. I mean, there's no change in his velocity, no big change in his spin rate. He hasn't been great this year, but I think a lot of it is his failure to adjust. I think he's got to do that. Maybe throw the fastball more, because his pitch mix is virtually the same as last year. I think, you're finding a lot of guys, especially with a guy like Ian who's fastball changeup, a lot of guys will just sit one or the other. I think that's happening a lot because, he's also walking his fair share for sure. But I think he's also, when he's not walking guys and he's throwing strikes, he's getting hit, which is never good. So, one of Ian's problems is also when runners get on, they score, and that's a big problem. And a lot of times, frankly, when Ian's pitching, a lot of times runners are on base, and if he can limit that, he can minimize damage. That's really where I think he's at. And look, this is something that a lot of pitchers go through. This is not, Ian Anderson is not the worst pitcher we've ever seen. As a rather than what Facebook would want you to believe. I think Ian is going to be fine. I think he's going to be. I think he's probably going to gear up right in time for the postseason. Charlie Morton struggled at the beginning of the year, but a lot of people gave Charlie Morton grace because we saw him turn it around last year. We saw, frankly, he's coming back from a broken leg. But we've seen all kinds of pitchers. We've seen the fluctuations. Luke Jackson. Who would have ever guessed Luke Jackson would be so missed? So just don't go mentally trading Ian Anderson. I mean, this is a guy that the Braves believed in when they drafted him. This is a guy that the Braves believed in as they brought him up through the minors. So I think it's going to be fine, and I think Ian Anderson's probably here to stay. He may have a short stint in Gwinnett, but I don't think it'll be long. I think he might go down there and get right, but I don't think you're going to see him get DFA'd. I mean, like I said, the dude's locked in until 2027, so we got some years with Ian. Again, you could get a big return, but why? At that point, you're trading more value than you are getting in most cases. So I don't think so, Anthony, but not a bad question. Riley says, you sound a lot better. Glad you're getting better. Yeah, I had bronchitis, so I was a little bit under the weather last time I was here on live. Every video I've done since then, other than this one, has been pre-recorded because I've had to pause, cough up a lung, and then get back on. So yeah, I've been kind of battling that. Appreciate that. It's really just been a cough I couldn't knock off. So thank you for that, Riley. Tanya says, so Jock going to get traded? I need to know. Is Jock going to get traded? I need to know. I don't think so. You heard it here. If it happens, I was wrong. I'll gladly be wrong, but I don't think it's going to happen. Jorge says, I really thought we had a chance at Ohtani when I saw that report. See, that a lot of times this time of year, and I'm not going to say I'm not guilty of it, but a lot of times this time of year, and really any time, sports media has to grab you with a headline, right? Jacob deGrom could be a Brave. That's going to make you click, right? Ohtani could be a Brave. Going to make you watch, right? I try not to do that. I try, when I present a theory, I tell you, look, this probably isn't going to happen, but I try to be upfront about it. A lot of times they make these reports and they put it out there, and it's a possibility. We could trade Michael Harris, Spencer Strider, Kyle Muller, and Tucker Davidson to get Shohei Ohtani, but the Braves are never going to do that. And I feel like I understand that more than MLB Network does to some degree. At least that's what they present. And I think they do it was just as much I knew they weren't going to do it, MLB Network knew they weren't going to do it as well. So I never really believed that. I never believed we were in on Soto, like a lot of people mentioned. I thought that was kind of ludicrous. I don't. Alex Anthopoulos, the more I cover him, the more we talk about it. Alex Anthopoulos has always handled business in a very similar way. He's not going to overpay for anything major. I mean, like he might overpay for Kenley Jansen on $18 million this year, but he's not going to overpay for somebody like Juan Soto and pay him. You're not going to see a $400 million contract. I mean, we're talking about the Braves, who their largest contract was signed today, and it was the Austin Riley extension for $212 million. So you're just not going to see that necessarily out of Alex Anthopoulos, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think Alex Anthopoulos is a very good general manager. I think he understands how the Braves operate. I think he understands what he can do given what he has. I mean, we saw it last year at the trade deadline, and, I think he committed highway robbery last year at the trade deadline. That being said, just, when people say we could go get this guy, sure we could. We have the guys to go get him. We sure could trade Ozzy Albies and Ronald Acuna to go get Shohei Ohtani, but we never would, right? So it's just, you have to take that into consideration. Now, if we had the best farm system right now, like the best farm system, I think we could trade a couple of top prospects and go get somebody huge. But even then, you'd have to pay them. So it's just a lot of that. You got to consider a lot of factors, and it gets kind of stressful when you really sit down and think about it. But we'll see. JB Memphis says, I'm happy to have A-Ray back. I like the move better when they DFA'd Cano. Adrianza has always seemed to put together good ABs. Yeah, he had a couple walk-offs last year. I see a lot of you guys want me to talk about A-Ray. I'll talk about A-Ray. I like A-Ray. I thought out of all the bench bats we had last year, A-Ray was one of the most underrated and one of the most solid. Like you said, I thought he had good at bats. If I'm not mistaken, he's left-handed at the plate, so that's a big help. I think that's probably a reason we went and got him. I think he could really benefit. I think they'll probably platoon to some degree and use him in a variety of ways. I don't think he's going to be a short stint. I think they're going to want to keep him. I haven't looked at his stats this year, and frankly, he's been with the Nationals, so I haven't really paid attention. But anytime he comes to Atlanta, he gets a big ovation, and rightfully so. He's part of the championship team. He got a ring. A-Ray's a very good player. He is a good ball player at the end of the day. He's a good infielder. Not the best at the plate, not the best in the field, but he is a solid player, and you can't convince me otherwise. I think A-Ray fits in well with the club. I think that's, they have a habit of going to get guys they like. I think A-Ray's a guy they like. I'm waiting on his stats to pull up. But, yeah, I really like that move. I woke up to that news, but I got that news today, and I liked it. I was surprised to see Trey Harris go a little bit because I remember how much hype I had, seeing him in spring training and seeing how good of a hitter he could be. But he just never really got over that hump, and I think the Braves sort of cut their losses a bit. But that tends to happen sometimes. Sorry, my internet is going insanely slow right now. But A-Ray's a good hitter. I mean, I don't have to show you his stats. We all are very familiar with A-Ray's ability at the plate. We're all very familiar with who he is. We're all familiar with what he can do in the field. And ultimately, I think it'll show itself. I don't think it's going to have to be, necessarily explained. But I'm doing my best to do it. It's just not pulling up for some reason. While I'm here, I guess I'll check my phone and make sure. Okay, I still haven't gotten any big moves. I'm sure as soon as I get off the stream, it'll be massive, left and right. The Braves are doing everything. All right, A-Ray. Yeah, so, okay, he's a switch hitter. That's what he is, switch hitter. He can play shortstop and third base. Okay, this year he's only batting 179, but he's only had 84 plate appearances. So I think he's a good switch hitter. I think that's probably why the Braves got him. So we'll see. That's what I got on A-Ray tonight. If you want anything else on him, I'll do my best to talk, but that's pretty much it. Yeah, Tommy Pham joined the Red Sox today, so they lost Vasquez, and then they went and got Tommy Pham. I think that was their solution to the Juan Soto talk. So Tommy Pham is not Juan Soto by any stretch, but he is a good bat. I mean, he's a good player. Even if he does smack people over fantasy football, he's a very good player. Pham to the Red Sox was a pretty good deal, I thought. I think the Red Sox are trying to compete, but they have a tough sell with the Yankees in the division. Let me see. By the way, guys, if you want me to answer a question specifically, I'm skipping over a lot of you. I don't have a choice. If you want it answered, make sure to super chat it. I'll get to it first thing as soon as I get it, pretty much. But I'll also I usually try to spend a little bit more time answering on those. Maverick, like that name, by the way. What I would like to see is the Braves send the Giants $6 million for Jock, and then send Marlins a low prospect and maybe Ozuna and some cash to get Soler. See, everybody wants to get Soler and Jock, which, look, I'd love. Make no mistake, I would absolutely love it. I just don't think getting both of them makes any sense. I mean, at that point, I feel like we'd be a little crowded in the outfield. I mean, you don't have 2 or 3 spots you can put them. That was the big thing last year was we were down Ozuna and we were down Acuna, and you didn't have the DH, so you had to put those guys in the field, and that's when it made sense. But I don't think it makes a ton of sense right now, personally. That being said, if it happens, I'll love it. I can't say I wouldn't. But Jock's not going anywhere. The Giants are competing, and if we got Soler, we'd have to commit to a 3-year deal. And that might be something that they do. But we'll see. Yasuki Knight says, don't believe everything you hear. Completely agree. Santander from the Orioles would be a nice fit. He is having a good year. I think the Orioles, though, Anthony, as bad as they've been over recent years, I think the Orioles are actually gearing up to compete. They played pretty well recently. They got Adley Rutschman. They got Jake Holiday now. I think they've been so bad so long. They've collected so many top prospects that I think they're going to have a resurgence in a way, and I think they expect that. So I don't think you're going to see somebody like Santander gone. I think he's going to be in Baltimore until he can't be anymore, until he's not performing worth anything. Jake Hobby says, I would like to get starter insurance in case Anderson needs to go down and Jock and Hap and reliever. You got starter insurance in the minors. You got Tucker Davidson. You did have Kyle Muller. Waskari Noah is still in the minors, and I know that's a guy that we haven't talked about in such a long time, but we're going to right now. Waskar, he's been really good at times. He's been really bad at times, and he's been subpar at times. And look, he's a guy that I personally really like on the team. I think he came in throwing 100 with like no control, adjusted, became a very good starting pitcher with a heck of a bat. I think he's a guy that could perform. I mean, look at what happened with Kyle Wright last year, right? I mean, that's a guy who everybody lost faith with for the most part. Not here at On Deck, we never did, but a lot of people had thrown out of the window as a failed prospect. And he came out, pitched a great World Series, and now he's, having the best year of his career this year. It would be awesome if we saw that out of Waskar, but it's going to take somebody like Ian Anderson going down for him to get that shot. He's still in the minors. He may get traded. Who knows? But I think you have starter insurance. I don't think we have to go get a starter. And to be honest with you, out of the starters out there, I don't know of anybody that we're going to go get that I'm excited about picking up. I mean, does anybody remember picking up Tommy Malone and Robbie Erlin in 2020? I mean, that's the level. I'm not saying that's what we go get, but I just don't think there's anybody out there that's going to be better than Ian Anderson and affordable at the same time. I just don't see it. Not a bad move, Jake. I get it, but I think, again, bullpen would be phenomenal. And there's a million things you could do because you're getting Kirby Yates back, hopefully. You're getting Mike Soroka back at some point, and he might be a bullpen arm for all we know starting out this year, starting out slow. You could get a starter and move Strider to the pen, but as good as Strider's been, I don't think that would be the option to go with. I think, Ian Anderson's the guy you either want to send down or to the pen. But even then, it's like, is there really an option there that makes a lot of sense? I personally just don't think so. Chris Kaysen, Dylan Lee is a beast in relief pitching. Could you see the Braves trading him? I would hate to lose Dylan Lee. No, because like you said, he's been a beast this year. I don't know his stats exactly, but he's been phenomenal. He's been reliable. And to be honest with you, I think they need all they can get in the pen that is reliable. And Dylan Lee is that. Now, if the Braves were garbage right now, then yeah, I think he'd be on the trade block. But no, I don't think he is. Riley Keeney says, Marcel Ozuna, 4th round 2023 pick. Tucker Davidson for Juan Soto, 2nd round pick, and Cole Henry. It could happen. But here's the thing with that, Riley. If you're trading for Juan Soto, you're trading Marcel Ozuna, you're giving them a 4th round pick, and Tucker Davidson, which Tucker Davidson's the real piece there. Marcel would be good, but he's only got 2 more years left, and you're paying him way more than I think they're paying Juan Soto right now, if I'm not mistaken. Juan Soto is not making that much money, if I'm not mistaken. Let me make sure on that. But basically, you'd be making them pay more and lose Soto, and they only get Tucker Davidson, and they trade a 4th round pick for a 2nd round pick. I just don't think the Nationals are going to go for that. I think at that point they just say, well, we'll keep Soto for another year. Not to say that it's necessarily for certain, but they're not saving any money there, really, I don't think. In fact, they may be paying more for all I know. It would be nice, though. Wow, okay. Jameson says that the Pirate... Let me see. All right, Quintana is going to the Cardinals. That's interesting. Sorry I'm late, guys. Super chat if you got some news like that so I can kind of keep up with it because I'm going back in the chat. So super chat if something new comes up. Jose Quintana to the Cardinals just announced. So, yeah, that's another starting pitcher that's off the table just like that. And I just don't think starter is where the Braves need to go. I think we have a lot there that – and look, when I say we have a lot there, we don't have 5 Max Frieds or 5 Kyle Wrights. But you got a good mix. You got your 1, 2, and 3, right? We all know who that is. Charlie Morton, Max Fried, and Kyle Wright. You got a pretty darn good rookie in Spencer Strider, and you got Ian Anderson, who's had a little bit of struggling. I can live with that in a starting rotation. I can. The bullpen needs work. It just does. And it would be nice if we could get something out of that. If they go get a starter, I think you see Strider move to the pen at that point. And I know a lot of people are going to go, why Strider? He's been so good. Because, like I said earlier, he could be a weapon in the pen. And Ian Anderson's had his struggle. So I just don't think starter is where they're going to go. But we'll see. Let me see. Anthony Hood says, we only need one more outfielder. Getting both of those guys would be too much. Completely agree with you. A lot of you guys are active in the chat. Watch your mouse. Make sure to be respectful in the chat. I do appreciate it. Let me see. See you, Riley. Have a good night. Maverick says, well, thank you, Tyler, for the name compliment, by the way. But the Giants were talking to put Rodon in a package for Juan Soto trade, so I think they will start to sell players. So I'm just telling you what I heard. I watched the Giants broadcast yesterday, and the announcer said they are not selling. That is from the general manager. Now, if they go get Juan Soto, that's not necessarily selling, right? That's trading, and they're prioritizing offense over pitching. That's not the same thing. Selling is, okay, we'll give you Carlos Rodon and Jock Peterson for 5 prospects. That's selling. They're not selling in that case. In fact, I think they would be buying more so than selling in that case. Daryl Whitaker says he'd send Ozuna, Inoa, and Muller to Chicago for Happ and Robertson. I'm not necessarily against that. And then you could have Contreras or Darno DH. I'm not necessarily against that. So that's Ozuna, Inoa, and Muller. Muller is out of it for the year. Inoa hasn't been seen really this year. Ozuna hasn't been great this year. And you're giving Chicago Ozuna, who's a bat right now, who could potentially be re-signed. You're giving Inoa, who I'm not sure. Let me see when his Inoa's contract ends. Oh, he's not even on this list. I want to say he's not a free agent until 2024 at least. He might even be longer than that. Oh, no. He ends in 2027. So you're giving them a long time, a guy with some years in Inoa and a guy with some years in Muller. I think that could work. I think that'd be enough to do it. The problem is they don't want to have to pay Ozuna. So we're probably going to have to, suffer through some of that. But yeah, I'd make that trade. As much as I like Kyle Muller, which I do, I would probably make that trade. But like Anthony Hood says, a lot of you guys are throwing out theories of Soto. I don't see Soto as a fit, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to pull this up. Now, this is a graphic I showed you earlier. Actually, I'm going to pull this one up. Take Happ out of this for a second. That's your outfield right now, right? You got Eddie, Michael, and Acuna. Well, where are we going to put Soto? And I know Eddie's there, but in reality, where is Soto going to go? I mean, we don't have the money to pay him once he gets re-signed. It would be awesome. But I don't think he's going to gel with it. I don't think that's really what we need to prioritize. I think a solid bat like Ian Happ or Brandon Drury or somebody like that could be really good for the Braves. I think Juan Soto is almost like overdoing it. And I know that sounds weird. It's like, well, how could you overdo it? Well, because we'd lose prospects. I mean, we would lose a ton. And for what? 2 to 3 years with Soto? I mean, I just don't get it. I don't see it. And to be honest with you, I don't think the Braves are even in it. Let's see. Let me see. A lot of you guys are in there today. Appreciate it. Yeah, Adam Wallace says nobody is trading for Juan Soto that isn't prepared to extend him for 12 to 15 years at $40 million a year. I mean, I think he's looking for the biggest contract in baseball history. I couldn't believe when he turned down what he turned down. I mean, it was absolutely I mean, I've never seen that kind of money be turned down before. And look, if there's one guy in baseball right now who, is projected to have a great future and deserves some big money, maybe it is Juan Soto. I don't know. If I was building a team, I'm not paying one player that much money. But, and I think when you commit that kind of money, it's hard to win. I mean, I said the same thing when Harper got $300 million, and I thought that was overpaying it. But this is ridiculous. So I don't think that's even in the cards to go get Juan Soto. I don't even think we should be talking about that. So we'll see. I think we're going to wrap it up for right now. I think that's going to be it for tonight. If you guys got any last-minute questions, go ahead and super chat, and I'll answer it. While we're wrapping up, just going to remind you, go check out this interview if you're a Braves fan. I think you'll really like it, to tell you the truth. I really do, because Cole Phillips is a guy who I think will be a Brave in the future, and this is your first real opportunity to get to know who he is and meet him in a way. Cole is got a great head on his shoulders. He's 19 years old. He's 6'3". He throws either 100 miles an hour or pretty darn close to it, enough to where you wouldn't know the difference. And he's, again, got a great head on his shoulders, a great attitude, and I think, you know what? He could be a starter of the future for the Braves. He could be the next Spencer Strider for all we know. So go check that interview out. It's on the channel right now, and I really would appreciate it. But with that said, we are going to wrap it up here in just a minute. I'm going to answer any more questions you guys got as quick as I can for just a second. But I saw Jay Cobby says, are you going to do anything for the last few hours of the deadline tomorrow? I don't want to tell you a time, but I'm looking at the trade deadline's at 6. I'm looking at the 5:30 spot and just go from there and kind of see what happens. I don't have anything to do tomorrow night other than watch the Braves. They got 2 games with the Phillies, I believe, so we're going to watch that. But I don't mind sitting here and talking baseball with you guys at all. In fact, I look forward to it all the time. So, yeah, we'll probably be live tomorrow night. It wouldn't surprise me at all if we did that. That being said, I don't know how long we're going to go. I don't know what we're going to talk about necessarily because I don't know what's going to happen. The Braves could have a crazy deadline or they could do nothing. So we will see. A lot of people are saying we need to focus on bullpen, and I completely agree. Bill Gates chimed in. He said the Braves need to get a couple of bullpen arms. Haters would have been a golden get, but we need another bat. We don't need another bat, but Eddie will turn it around. I hope so. But like I said earlier, last year the Braves really overdid it in the outfield, and it paid off. So I think they may do that again. They may not need to, though. I completely agree. Eddie may flip it around. Hader, I know a lot of people talk about Hader. I'm a big Hader guy, but Hader has not had the best stats this year. And the Brewers probably came out of the better for that because they got a closer in Taylor Rogers, and they also got like a lot of prospects. And they weren't going to be able to pay Hader at the end of his contract. He's a free agent 2024, and he's got a 4.24 ERA. I don't know that the Braves necessarily wanted to go get that, but at the same time, he's Josh Hader, so we'll see. So for right now, bullpen, bat. That's what we need. Jordan Baldovi. Okay, this is the last question because you asked a good one. Aloha, Tyler. Love the recent Cole Phillips interview. Who are you interviewing next? I don't have any real plan to do anything. Since you guys are up late with me, I'll tell you a little bit. I'm planning on... All right, I'm moving out in September. So what you're seeing right here is going to go. We're going to look at something a little bit different. I will have basically a room dedicated to On Deck, and we're going to change the setup. We're going to make it a little bit more dynamic, going to make it a little bit better. No timetable on that. Could be, I don't know when exactly it's going to be. I've been thinking about it a lot, though. We have some interviews planned, but I don't really want to disclose them because they're just not official yet. But Cole Phillips is a guy who we're going to follow, as long as he'll let us. We're going to follow through his minor league journey. Basically, it's going to be road to the show through Cole Phillips' career. And I'm looking forward to following that. We will do as many as we can. So that being said, we don't have any real plans, but I'm sure we got a lot of exciting stuff coming up. The real focus right now is the MLB season for the Braves. It's getting through this, so we got to do that. But beyond that, in the off season, it's all wide open, so we can do pretty much anything. But we will have probably guests in studio once I do that, so we'll see. But that being said, we got a lot of exciting stuff coming up for On Deck. So make sure you subscribe, make sure you hit the bell for notifications, and make sure you like the video on your way out. It really does help me. All right, we got a super chat. I got to answer it. Monte Cristo says, why haven't the Braves called up Jay Jackson from AAA yet? He has been pitching and rehabbing well. Probably because they don't want to rush him back. A lot of times with injuries, they don't want to. They really don't want to push a guy back because of options, right? That's what happened to Fulton Evans a few years ago. He got sent down. He got DFA'd because he ran out of options. And once that happens, you're on the trade block no matter what. So they want to monitor and make sure they're good to go before they come back. They don't want him to get hurt again, obviously, but they want to make sure he's going to stay in the majors once he's sent up. I'm sure that's what it is. But you know what? He could be a big punch in the second half, and I think that'd be a great move. So thank you, Monte Cristo. Thank you to all the guys that super chatted tonight. It really helps me out. I appreciate it. Thanks to all you guys watching. That really helps me out as well. Make sure to tune in tomorrow night. We will be live for the trade deadline at around 5:30. No guarantee on that, but around 5:30. And we will be covering, at least reviewing what the Braves had done up until that point to start it off. And we'll monitor and see what the Braves do throughout the night. But that being said, we will be back here tomorrow. We have a lot of stuff on the channel you can go check out. Number one being the Cole Phillips interview. And, of course, we have other stuff as well. If you want more trade deadline content and you're just getting done watching me right now, go check out the trade deadline video I did earlier, or last week, I guess. Go check that out. I gave you a couple theories I thought were possible. Some of them have not aged well. David Peralta is one. He's already gone. But there are some on there that I think some of you will like. There's some on there that you probably won't like. But let me know down in the comment section what trade deadline you want to see. Let me know there as well. And make sure to share this with your friends. Share this with Braves fans. Get this stuff out there. It really helps out the channel a lot. We've had a lot of growth this year, and it's because of you. So we can't do this without you. So I really do appreciate it, and we have a lot of exciting stuff coming ahead. So with that said, I'll see you tomorrow night right here at On Deck.